What are the best and worst matchups for fantasy football and your players in week 8 with the back half of games all the way through Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football? It's time to find out here as another matchup Thursday begins right here and right now on Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. If you go there, my 2 weekly signature columns of picks straight up and against the spread you can check out, as well as my stardom, sit-em, the decider. We also have a special start-sit column that we do for Thursday Night Football. So check out any last-minute decisions you need on Packers and Cardinals. We went into that game in depth yesterday on Matchup Wednesday, where we took the first 7 of the games on the Week 8 slate, broke them down for you. 2 teams off this week, Raiders and Ravens, but we still have a 15-game busy schedule, so we have to get to 8 of the games this week all the way through. Some nice games at the back end there. The marquee game on Fox, the Buccaneers got the Saints. Then you go to the NBC game on Sunday Night Football. It's the Cowboys and Vikings, and close a pretty good one. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs hosting the Giants on Monday Night Football there on ESPN. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. Some potential for some big fantasy explosions here, and we'll talk about those here in a moment. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We are free and available for you on all platforms. All right, let's continue here and look at what we've got here on my note sheet. And we'll start with the Steelers and Browns. And 3.5 is the spread here in favor of Cleveland. They're the home team. 42.5, pretty low total there for the over-under. The Steelers coming off a bye. The Browns coming off a grindy Thursday night victory there in Week 7 against the Broncos, also in Cleveland. So let's start with the Steelers. They come in there. Ben Roethlisberger, I'm not going there yet with only Derek Carr and Lamar Jackson off on bye. I think I would go in a different direction there from playing quarterback. 2 QB leagues, yeah, you can look at him. Super flex, that's fine. But in terms of trying to streaming this week, this is not the best spot for Roethlisberger. It's on the road. The conditions can be tricky. That said, you got to play his wide receivers here, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. With Juju Smith-Schuster on the shelf, it kind of streamlines those targets. Now, could we see a little bit more from the tight end rookie, Pat Freiermuth from Penn State? Possibly, but do we want to go there just yet? The Browns can be pretty decent against the tight end here. Their corners, we'll see. Denzel Ward is now banged up. Greg Newsome, the rookie first-rounder, missed some time earlier, but Denzel Ward, we'll see if he can go. He has a hamstring injury here that he's dealing with. The pass rush, J.D. Von Clowney could be limited as well. So we'll see how that plays out for the Browns defense. But Deontay Johnson, you got to look at him as a wide receiver, too, in this offense based on volume. Chase Claypool, hope for the big play, but we're looking at him as a wide receiver 3. He's a bit banged up himself with a hamstring injury, but he's working in full here, so he should be good to go. But without Juju, it clarifies where the targets are going to go to mainly, and just by the volume alone, we like those players, but this is not a particularly great matchup, so we got to drop down Johnson to wide receiver 2 and a big play-dependent wide receiver 3. It's Claypool this week. Najee Harris, always locked in as an RB1. I know the Browns' run defense can be pretty tough, but there are other ways that the Steelers get Harris involved. He's a big key receiver for what they want to do. Outlet receiver, no Juju actually helps that because a lot of short passes there to Harris, and we know that they use him in the red zone as well. The Steelers' defense certainly playable. We'll see if Baker Mayfield can return from the left shoulder injury, non-throwing with the labrum. I would doubt it in case Keenum starts again, so you feel a little bit better there about the Steelers. Now, Case Keenum would be a downgrade to all the weapons. I can't go with Odell Beckham Jr. Jarvis Landry and Donovan Peoples-Jones, by the way, didn't practice. Odell limited with a shoulder injury. So more knee issues for Jarvis Landry, a growing issue for DPJ. So could be even more shorthanded. It seems like every time the Browns get a few people back, some more people on the shelf. So it could be very caretaky type, low-scoring game as we expect, thrown to the tight ends a little bit more in this one. So, and a lot of Nick Chubb, who should return from his calf injury in this one. So, Ernest Johnson was fun while it lasted. I would expect he'd get some touches here without Kareem Hunt to relieve Chubb a little bit, but Chubb is still going to be the man. They're going to give him as much work as he can get here. They had the mini bye last week, so that's what I would think. So Nick Chubb is the only Brown I would feel really comfortable playing. I wouldn't play their defense either. I think the Steelers will protect the ball, move it here with Najee Harris. So when you're looking at the Browns, I think it's Nick Chubb. Nothing else I'm too interested in. I don't want to try to guess between Austin Hooper and David Njoku where they might go at tight end. We saw last week the scoring output wasn't there. They could just get grinded quite a bit with Chubb and play decent defense and win that way. I actually like the Steelers to win this game because of the Browns' limitations as well. So another reason why I might pivot off them. And again, the over-under should tell you quite a bit at 42.5. All right, let's go to our next game. This is also going to be a low-scoring game, a grindy Midwestern game. The 49ers travel to the Bears, so this is in Chicago, outdoor in the elements, and not quite November, but Halloween is there. It's spooky enough here with the wind and the elements there. We know in Chicago, October can feel like December at some point. So, and let's look at the 49ers here. Deebo Samuel, calf injury. We'll see if he can play. Would I pivot to Brandon Ayuk and use him? I don't know if I could. I mean, they just simply are dog-izing Ayuk. I know Ayuk was a big replacement for Samuel last year, but that was last year when Ayuk wasn't in the complete doghouse of Kyle Shanahan. So really tough there. Let's hope Deebo goes. It is a tough matchup here. Oh, last week, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin had no problems here, but Jalen Johnson's a pretty good corner for the Bears, and he's going to follow Deebo everywhere on the field if they don't use Ayuk or have any other real threats in the receiving game, and definitely not Trent Sherfield is not going to attract attention there. So when you look at that for the 49ers here, Deebo, you'll play him if he's in there, of course, but you might drop him down more to wide receiver 3 status this week. This seems like a grindy game as well. Jimmy Garoppolo, you can't go there. You still have to go with Eli Mitchell. I mean, he is the lead back for the 49ers. He looks pretty good here. He's a rookie that is unheralded, that's doing the job here that's needed and getting the volume as well. So Samuel, yeah, you play him, but downgrade him a little bit because of the injury and the matchup. You look at the Eli Mitchell, more of an RB2/flex this week based on the matchup. Now, George Kittle not going to be back yet for this game either, so not much to see there. So pretty much it's Mitchell and Samuel and nothing else that you can look at in the 49ers offense, and you got to be limited with their expectations as well in this game. For the Bears, where do we go? It's pretty much down to the backfield as well. I mean, we can't trust Justin Fields at all. Forget it. Last week, we couldn't even have garbage time. That's really hurting Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson. I know the 49ers secondaries had their issues, the in and out of the lineup. Some guys have come, Emmanuel Mosley and the like here, but I just can't trust the volume of Fields to throw and the effectiveness either. And then the Bears, in garbage time last week against the Buccaneers, they decided to run the ball. So, yeah, you can't even trust that part. So, Allen Robinson, we'll see if he gets traded out of this mess. I think he deserves to be. He's a free agent next year anyway. We want to see Mooney kind of unleash here as Fields' go-to guy anyway. He's going to be the guy there in 2022 and beyond. So let's see that. But you got to look at Khalil Herbert. He's getting the key touches now with Damian Williams coming back last week from COVID-19. But I think there's an indication that Herbert is going to get the high volume. He was also used pretty well in the passing game last week. So I think they're using him a lot the way they wanted to use David Montgomery when he was healthy. So that's a good sign for the rookie Herbert. So the rookie Herbert, rookie Williams, 2 unheralded guys that we didn't think were going to have prominent roles based on the depth charts and way things were playing out with the 49ers and Bears. But here we are in week 8 where our fantasy teams probably need them. I think I look at Herbert more as a flex play this week. The 49ers can be pretty good against the run. Again, I cannot trust Robinson or Mooney the way Fields is playing right now. We're not extending to Cole Kmet here either just because Jaquiski Tartt is out there for the 49ers with an injury. So I don't know. It's just really hard to watch these teams, but hopefully you'll get enough from Williams and Herbert, and hopefully Samuel plays for you if you need him as well. But the 39.5 number, just not appealing at all for fantasy football. And I'm going to avoid anybody in DFS in this one, and certainly not going to play a showdown lineup for this particular game either. All right, we told you at the top that this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football was brought to you here by McDonald's, and we're proud to have McDonald's as a sponsor of the show, that's for sure. I mean, it's a great place that we love to go here, and who doesn't love McDonald's? And if you were not connected with your local McDonald's, it's time to get back in the flow with it, because McDonald's has been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect, a place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team or the away team can come to recharge. It's a place you always look forward to stopping out on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. My neighborhood McDonald's and the manager is really nice. They let you sit there and work if you want to, get a little bit of lunch, maybe a coffee, and you sit there for a while and you feel good about it. It's like a home away from home, except with a few nice treats that you can tap into. And really, it is a place for everyone. And it's good that all the McDonald's are open, or a lot of them are here for you. So you can reconnect and hang out at your local McDonald's a little bit more, because there's always something you can check out. And the food is great, and the people are even better there at McDonald's. So head to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect. Did somebody say Locked On Fantasy Football Watch Party? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by Rock Auto. Proudly can say that as well. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now possible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse can carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store car dealership? I needed a side mirror cover for my Ford C-Max Energy. They had it there at Rock Auto, as well as an interior console cover for my Honda Accord. And you can find all kinds of parts that you need there at Rock Auto, and all the Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find a solution to your auto part needs. Again, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right locked on in there. How did you hear about us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Find them at rockauto.com. All right, it's time to continue with the show here. We still have to talk about 6 more games on the slate and break them down for you ahead of week number 8's Sunday and Monday action for you in fantasy football. Good luck if you have anyone going tonight in the Cardinals-Packers game, because that should be rather fruitful here for you. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Make sure you're checking out our trade deadline special there on November 2nd. We're going to be there for a couple hours right around the deadline at 4 p.m. Eastern time there with a special. They're only on the Locked On NFL channel here on YouTube. Trade deadline coverage here in the NFL. As it happens Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see if some of these players get moved here, but definitely a show you should check out to see our reaction and analysis of anything that might go down on that day and anything that didn't go down on that day and why those trades didn't happen. So good breakdown here coming up next week. Trade deadline show on Locked On Network. The next game we'll talk about is the Jaguars-Seahawks, and the Jaguars are 3.5-point underdogs in this one. 44.5 is the over-under. The Seahawks are slight favorites in this game, and let's look at their situation. Do we love it with Geno Smith? But they have covered in back-to-back games against the Steelers and Saints, 2 better teams than the Jaguars, however. So do the Seahawks win this game? I think it's going to be pretty tight here for the Seahawks. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to come out and play well after the bye of James Robinson. Seattle's run defense is not very good, so that should help open things up. Marvin Jones should be schemed open here rather well. So, yeah, start the Jaguars if you can. If you need a back-end QB1, Trevor Lawrence has some appeal just based on the matchup alone here and the big playability of Marvin Jones if you need him. If you need Dan Arnold in a pinch in a late kind of streaming type situation here with no Darren Waller and no Mark Andrews, you can look there for sure. They got him a little bit more involved. And Laviska Shenault Jr. could get a few more targets, but it's hard to predict. So I feel a lot more confident here with Jones here than I would go with Shenault Jr. and a little bit more Arnold because they have used the tight end. The Seahawks have struggled a little bit covering that position at times this season. So, yeah, Lawrence back-end QB1 if you need him. 14-team league certainly is playable in that situation. Robinson is an RB1 based on the matchup alone. Marvin Jones comes in as a wide receiver 2 to me. Dan Arnold is kind of a higher-end tight end 2 this week. Not going to start the Jaguars defense, even with Geno Smith on the other side. And they have a few playmakers there. They haven't been that bad, but a lot of injuries that the Jaguars are battling as well, including Miles Jack going into this game. So let's go to the Seahawks side of things. Alex Collins should continue to play through the growing injury. We saw it was glute and something else early in the designation, but he played last week, wasn't all that effective. This committee is kind of blown up weirdly with Rashad Penny returning and DJ Dallas and all these guys. You just can't really feel great about it, but Collins looks like the guy at least to lead this backfield and has the most trust and health from Pete Carroll at this point. So again, the matchup is good enough where you can look at Collins as an RB2 or flex. Am I going to try to force in Penny? I don't know. I mean, Penny overall might be their best back, but he wasn't looking good last week. Maybe they rushed him back into action, given the situation with no Chris Carson on the shelf. So it's a mess in Seattle. They're going to have to find sources of offense. I think I know where those offensive pieces are going to come from. It's DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So we need Geno Smith to play better, but this matchup is so good on the outside and inside, wherever they line up Metcalf and Lockett here. So I would feed these guys often. The backfield situation is not working. You need that to take pressure off Geno Smith. They got to unleash Geno Smith. They have nothing to lose here without Russell Wilson. Let's get the ball to Metcalf and lock it all over the field and just be dominant about it. I mean, the Jaguars, again, do not have anybody that can contain either of those guys. That's what you're going to see here. So Collins would be the play for desperate at running back over Penny if you're going for wide receivers. DK Metcalf still comes in as a wide receiver one to me. I think Tyler Lockett bounces back here as a nice wide receiver too. Just that's how good the matchup is here for the Seahawks. You could play their defense. It's really hard to trust, however, because I do like the Jaguars to stay in it and score points this week. So it was okay last week. I think they overachieved a bit against the Saints. I think the Jaguars actually have a little bit more firepower with Lawrence. So then we'll monitor that. You could always get the potential of a big play against Lawrence. We've seen him put up numbers, but also give up defensive touchdowns. So that's what you're hoping for if you're trying to stream Seattle here at home in this matchup in week number 8. Staying out on the West Coast and the 4 o'clock window here on Sunday, you have the Patriots taking the Los Angeles Chargers on in Los Angeles. Last year, the Patriots went out there and won, did kind of a blitz of defense and special teams and running game and won. That's how they're going to try to win this game as well, folks. They contained Justin Herbert last year in the matchup, but Herbert's matured a little bit more. Chargers are coming off a bye. It's a different style of offense here. But what I think the Patriots are going to do, they look at Justin Herbert. He's a guy that goes for the big plays. He's not Mr. Checkdown. He more designed passes that are short to Austin Eckler here. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to make the Chargers sustain those long drives, not jump on them with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So I think Mike Williams might be the guy they take out of the game in this one because they've seen the chemistry between Herbert and Williams downfield. Keenan Allen's a harder guy to stop because he can run routes all over the field. He's a precision technician. Just hard to stop him in coverage. And really, the Patriots have one reliable corner now in J.C. Jackson, Stephon Gilmore long gone in Carolina, and Jonathan Jones, their outstanding slot guy, is out here. So Williams is going to be the focal point in the downfield passing game. They're going to key in and try to shrink and shorten the game here. So that means a lot of Austin Eckler running and short passing there. The Patriots are also pretty good against the tight end. So that also helps, is where they can squeeze, where they don't have to worry too much about that part of the coverage here. So I'm expecting it to be more of an Allen and Eckler game here. I don't really love Herbert because the Patriots can scheme and they do things to young quarterbacks. I don't see a high, really productive game. You look at the 48.5, it kind of hints at that here, that we're not expecting Herbert to light up the Patriots in this one. So Eckler I like a lot based on volume as an RB1. Keenan Allen, I think, has a strong wide receiver 2 day with the chance for a touchdown in this game against the Patriots. Not going to start the Chargers defense. I think they're a deep sleeper. But again, Mac Jones has been unpredictable, so you're banking on a big mistake there that turns into 6 points the other way. So beware of that if you're playing the Seahawks or the Chargers as a streaming defense this week. So, yeah, we'll go there. No Jared Cook in that, but you're still starting Williams. Just expect him to fall in more wide receiver 3 category at best. Bump up for Allen, bump up for Eckler, downgrade for Herbert. I think you could sit him in 12-team leagues if you have a better alternative player, such as Kirk Cousins or someone like that you can plug in here. I am worried about Herbert. Given last time we saw him before the bye against the Ravens, it was a mess. And that Ravens defense, not nearly as tough all around without Matthew Judon, who now plays for the Patriots. But the Patriots are against the pass. On the Patriots side of things, you can't go with Mac Jones on the road at all, even as a streamer. Damian Harris show, that's what it's going to be. They're going to feed Damian Harris often. We don't trust who the next back is going to be. Ramondre Stevenson was inactive last week against the Jets. You had J.J. Taylor touch the ball. You had Brandon Bolden touch the ball. The only consistent source of rushing production and red zone production we can like out of that backfield is Damian Harris. So he locks in as an RB1. The Chargers' run defense is atrocious. So the Patriots are not going to be shy. They're going to attack the most exploitable weakness. That's the Chargers' front seven. They're going to run on them. They also don't want to put Mac Jones in trouble against that pass rush with Joey Bosa and all that as a rookie quarterback. So this matchup screams feed Harris the ball early and often, and he's going to have a big day in this one. He's going to keep them in the game. It's also a Hunter Henry revenge game. Jonas Smith a little bit banged up in this one, so that could give more reason to keep Henry as a key receiver, as the number one tight end on this team now has had some separation. It is a revenge game. The Chargers are really bad against the tight end as well, so they might try to scheme to stop Henry. I think that's a mistake. I think they should just trust their wide receiver, cornerback matchups here. Make the Patriots grind it and try to pull away where the game script doesn't allow the Patriots to run as much here. So I think that's where it can go. But Hunter Henry, solid tight end one this week. Damian Harris, elite RB1 this week. That's how good this matchup is. Going to avoid Jones, going to avoid the wide receivers. The Patriots defense, I wouldn't say it's completely unplayable. It's one of those where the matchup doesn't sound great, but it's the Patriots. They can scheme and do things. Remember, they even had some turnovers against the Cowboys that made them somewhat viable, even in a tough matchup. And we saw what they did to the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. So, again, I wouldn't say the Patriots are matchup proof, and you could certainly sit them, but there's some appeal if Herbert makes some mistakes, and I think they're going to force him to hold the ball, and that could lead to some turnovers here. And again, this offensive line is playing better with Rashawn Slater at left tackle, the rookie from Northwestern, but we're looking at some opportunities here for the Patriots if they can keep it close and make it an ugly game here against the Chargers. The final game we'll talk about in this segment is the Washington football team traveling to Denver. They're 3-point underdogs. They lost in Green Bay last week. The Broncos lost in Cleveland last week. 44.5 is the over-under. Let's start with WFT. You're not going to Taylor Heineke on the road in a tough environment here. You're going to Terry McLaurin. He's in your lineup every week. He's having a hamstring issue, but he should play through it here. And interesting developments behind him. Cam Sims might be in the number 2. Diami Brown has a knee injury that can keep him out again. Curtis Samuel, what else is new? He's still hurting with that growing issue. So you could see Cam Sims maybe getting an opportunity here, but really it's going to be the Terry McLaurin, Ricky Seals-Jones show. There was a hint that Logan Thomas could return. I think there's a track for him to do that, but WFT is on a bye next week. So that probably means they're going to sit Logan Thomas for one more week, let RSJ do his thing. So really comes down to McLaurin, RSJ, start J.D. McKissic at your own risk. Antonio Gibson could have another tough time here, but he does just enough with the volume, with the potential to score that you plug him in. But he's more of an RB2 flex this week than anything resembling an RB1 based on this matchup. I know Denver was gashed last week by Cleveland with D'Ernest Johnson, but this Washington offensive line, we'll see. Brandon Sheriff could come back at right guard, but Samuel Cosmi, the fine rookie right tackle, could also miss this game. So a few offensive line issues that are hurting the running game as well for WFT. It'd be great if Sheriff comes in to help Gibson in this one, but McKissic you can't trust with his usage now, as we saw last week, and the game script doesn't always go in that direction. So, yeah, the Broncos are a tough matchup. We'll see. Von Miller could miss this game. That would help Taylor Heineke facilitate these playmakers a little bit downfield in the passing game as well. So, look, there's no one scary there. You have Ronald Darby, you have the rookie Pat Surtain, you have the slot guy Kyle Fuller, who could be on the move here at the trade deadline. So nothing all that scary in the Broncos secondary, but again, stick with the principles here: McLaurin and Ricky Seals-Jones and Gibson. Now for the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy is coming back here for Teddy Bridgewater. That's great news because he can line up all over. This is a very tough matchup. Good route running, precise guy that can go inside and outside. WFT really struggles inside. William Jackson III, their best outside corner, whom they signed a big deal in free agency from Cincinnati, he's banged up as well. So on the outside, you have Cortland Sutton. So Tim Patrick's value, I think, goes away for sure because Jeudy replaces Patrick in the lineup. So you can't go with Tim Patrick at all here with Jeudy back because he's going to be the co-number 1 there with Cortland Sutton. Sutton can make some plays on the outside. So like the matchup for Sutton, but I'm going to temper it here with the quarterback situation to wide receiver 2 and Jerry Jeudy into more wide receiver 3. You could stream Teddy Bridgewater this week. Noah Fant every week like he is. He's a solid tight end 1 in the middle of the pack. So good things all around there. Broncos defense, you might have some appeal, but if there's no Miller, they're a little bit more banged up in the pass rush. could be limited there with the returns they can get against the WFT offense, and we'll see how it goes. But again, the Broncos, they're worse streamers you can go with this week. I think they're more of a middle of the road to play this week there from that position against Heineke. All right, we'll break down the final three games in our final segment here for week number 8. I do have to tell you about BetOnline.ag. We're back and better than ever. New web interface for the start of the basketball season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action of the season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers there at BetOnline for the 2021 season. Whatever the season is, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, it's time to close the show here, looking at our final three matchups, and these are the matchups that are probably going to be the highest rated games of the week as we go into the 425 window there on Fox. This will be the marquee game there. It's the Buccaneers traveling to the Saints. So pretty good matchup. We know last year it was a little tough here with this matchup that the Bucs struggled in the regular season. Then they had that big game in the playoffs that they advanced with. Let's look at the over-under in this game. It is 49.5. The Bucs are 5.5 point favorites. I actually like the Saints to cover. I think it's going to be a close game. It's also not, I don't think it's going to be the scoring fest that we think it might be here in week number 8. So let's start with the Buccaneers. Mike Evans has a bad history against Marshon Lattimore. You're going to play him and hope for the best because he can always score a touchdown. But keep in mind his volume may not be high, and Tom Brady might be pivoting off that matchup and looking more to Chris Godwin inside. Saints also have Bradley Roby as the second wide receiver cornerback matchup, and there could be no Antonio Brown in this game. Still dealing with that ankle injury. So I think this is another Chris Godwin game for the volume. Again, Evans did beat a good matchup last week with Jalen Johnson, but I feel like the Bears didn't come to play. There were a lot of turnovers, a lot of touchdown early opportunities there for the Bucs, and that really helped Evans' value in that one. So he's touchdown dependent. He's big play dependent. I don't know if those will both come in this game here. Maybe the touchdown, but I'm not counting on the big plays of Marshon Lattimore owning that matchup over the years, especially when the two play in New Orleans. So Chris Godwin, lock him in as a wide receiver 2. I dropped down Mike Evans to a wide receiver 3 and be prepared to be without Brown again. I think they'll be very careful with all their injuries because the Buccaneers end game, they know they're going to win the division. They know they may not get the number 1 seed. They know they've won as a wild card. So they're just about keeping guys healthy there, especially if Rob Gronkowski returns, by the way, from his ribs injury. Got a limited practice, which is a big difference here because he was not practicing at all when he was missing games all those weeks. So Gronk might be back, and that might feel like the Bucs want to be more cautious with Brown, given he's such a big part of what Tom Brady does here, and they feel like they can win the game anyway with those type of matchups here on the inside with Gronk and Godwin. So if Gronk's back, you're starting him for sure. Tom Brady's been waiting for Gronk. He does not love O.J. Howard or Cameron Brate all that much here, as we've seen. He wants Gronk back, and he's going to use Gronk a lot should his other favorite guy, AB, not be in the lineup this week. So that's exactly what we're looking for. A lot of inside work with Gronk and Godwin. That's where they can fight as a team most. And also, keep in mind, the Saints can also stop the run as well as the Bucs here. So Leonard Fournette, I know, is a New Orleans guy coming back home. He looked really good here, but he could be a little bit slow down here. And it's going to take some opening up in the passing game and maybe a lead here in the second half to really get Fournette's numbers. But I see a limited game for Fournette, maybe like 60, 65 yards in some range like that. You're hoping for a touchdown from him. That's always a possibility, just like with Evans. But yardage-wise, usage-wise, it could be a little bit tough here. Even the Saints linebackers and their speed and all that for looking at the usage of Fournette. But Tom Brady, I think it's more of a 215-2 game for him. I don't think it's going to be a 404, that type of game. It's not going to happen against the Saints defense on the road. So keep that in mind. He's a solid guy, QB1, but he's not going to give you a high ceiling this week when you play him there in this matchup. And the Bucs defense, you could look at Jameis Winston on the other side, revenge game for him. He's not the same pick six, turnover prone Jameis Winston as last year, but Bucs have guys who can get after him a little bit and force that. Lavonte David could return here to create another playmaker. They're on the second level, while Jason Pierre-Paul is probably going to miss the game and hurt that pass rush a little bit more for the Buccaneers. Now, for the Saints, you can't start Jameis Winston. I know it's a revenge game, and the matchup is okay. I mean, I think he's a borderline QB1 in deeper leagues, but you can't start him with a lot of confidence. I think it's a little bit of volatile play here. That on paper the matchup is really good, but where the target's coming from, Michael Thomas, we'll see about him. I don't think he's going to be out there. Marquez Callaway, there's that enough, and Callaway didn't do all that much in the matchup last week, so it's tough because the Saints want to run the ball, but it's hard to run the ball on the Bucks. And then if they can't run the ball, they throw to Alvin Kamara, and the Bucks really struggle. And maybe David can help with that with covering running backs because that's where you get it, the checkdowns and the running production. That way, last week's Khalil Herbert game was a anomaly there with all the garbage time running he did, which usually only get from teams. But Alvin Kamara, big receiving game there in Seattle, so that's the potential for his numbers as well as touchdown here. So Alvin Kamara, more of an RB2 this week. Marquez Callaway falls into wide receiver 3 flex borderline for me. Jameis Winston is a QB1, QB2 borderline, but only like 14-team leagues here this week. And I'm not playing the Saints defense. They played pretty well, but not against the Bucks offense, even though they could be a little bit better than we think against Brady at home in this one. All right, we go to Sunday Night Football, and it's the Vikings hosting the Cowboys. The line has dropped to 1.5 in favor of the Cowboys. It was around 2.5, 3 over the week. The over-under is what we're looking for on Sunday Night Football. 55. Yeah, that means a lot of scoring in this game, back and forth. That means a very high implied point total for both teams here. So looking forward to that here this week. And let's look at the Cowboys on their end here. Dak Prescott, we're waiting for confirmation that he's good to go with the calf injury. He was limited practice, which is a good sign. Missing practice early is never good, but he's on the field there doing some work, and he should play through it. I mean, I would bet on Dak playing way more than not playing this week. So Dak should be good to go here. We'll see about Michael Gallup. He could return from his injury this week as well, and that could add another dynamic against his weak Vikings secondary, by the way. The Vikings secondary is terrible. Patrick Peterson's on IR for a while. You got the Brashad Breeland, who's just been utterly roasted all season. So this is a wide receiver game for the Cowboys. Whether or not it involves Michael Gallup, we'll find out. But Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, they're going to do their thing in this game because the Vikings cannot cover them. It's less of a Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin, Tony Pollard type game to me. I think you look at the Vikings, they're playing a little bit better on the second level. Decent safety play as well, we know. So not about the inside and the running backs in the passing game, not the tight ends. It's going to be all about just throw to Cooper and Lamb as much as possible. Gallup gets in the mix is going to make Dak all the more dangerous. So what you're going to see basically with Cedric Wilson also playing pretty well here, that I could see the Cowboys pivoting to using more 3 and 4 wide receiver sets and going away from the tight ends out of necessity. So I think just be prepared for a Dalton Schultz let down in this game. Pollard is not usable. Ezekiel Elliott locks in as an RB1 in this matchup. I like Cooper and Lamb with top 12 potential this week with the scoring. So it should be a lot of fun for the Cowboys as usual with their offense. Prescott, a high-end QB1 as well. So a lot of good things there. The principles for the Cowboys play them, but except for Dalton Schultz. And also not going to play their defense. I know Trayvon Diggs makes a big play and all that every game, and Kirk Cousins can't turn over the ball, but this matchup is brutal, I think, for the Cowboys defense as well. And this is going to be living up to the hype as a shootout on Sunday night. All right, let's go to the Vikings side of things. And this is a great matchup for Adam Thielen. The Cowboys are not going to slot. They do a lot of one-on-one coverage. They're pretty weak away from Trayvon Diggs. Great matchup to see Justin Jefferson versus Trayvon Diggs. Now, I think Diggs is going to have some of the success here at times. I mean, he is Stefan's brother, and Justin Jefferson has talked some smack about being better than Stefan, who he replaced in Minnesota. So there's going to be fun back and forth. I think you're going to see Diggs win that battle sometimes. I think you'll see Jefferson win that battle. We saw Diggs as a home run hitting type of corner. He's going to take the big plays. Jefferson is a home run hitting type of receiver. So I think you'll see something happen in the middle, but I see a pretty good volume here. But Thielen, slightly better matchup than Jefferson. Still think Jefferson and Thielen should be looked at as high-end wide receiver 1. So Cooper and Lamb and all the situations here are where we go here this week. So good stuff all around there for Thielen and Jefferson. Dalvin Cook locks in as an RB1. Kirk Cousins is a solid QB1 in this matchup this week. If you're looking for a sneaky play, I think it's Tyler Conklin instead of KJ Osborne as the third target. The Cowboys do struggle against the tight end. A little bit of a change in safety also for them in this game, and they're going to avoid the defenses on Sunday night. Okay, let's look down to Monday Night Football. Our final game that we're talking about is the Giants traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites in this one, 52.5. So a healthy number. We think the Chiefs are going to rebound, and I think they will. Patrick Mahomes locks in a QB1. Great matchup for him. He's not Sam Darnold. He's not going to struggle with his Giants defense. You have Tyreek Hill. The Giants do have pretty good corners there in James Bradbury and Adoree Jackson, but they'll scheme Hill open. He'll have a get-well game. I think they'll turn to Darrell Williams a little bit more in the running game to stay balanced. Get well for him as well. They have the positive game script to get Darrell Williams going. Then you have Travis Kelce. He's going to do a lot of damage. We know all over the field against the Giants. So Hill, wide receiver 1. Kelce, tight end 1. Darrell Williams, I think, is a borderline RB1 this week. Patrick Mahomes bounces back in a big way as a top 5 QB this week. And I do also like the Chiefs' defense. I think the Giants, they are protecting the ball with Daniel Jones, but could be some garbage time against their pass defense. But Jones is also going to turn over the ball here. So all your principles with the Chiefs, get them in there and feel good about them this week to really bounce back after much of it was disappointing against the Titans on the road last week. Now, for the Giants, we'll see who's healthy at wide receiver. The only guy that we seem certain about playing is Darius Slayton. He could be the guy here getting a lot of volume in garbage time against the Chiefs. Sterling Shepard is in and out with a hamstring, so we'll see. I don't see Kenny Golladay with the knee and Kadarius Toney with an ankle returning in this game. So a lot of messy stuff for sure in this matchup for the Giants. I think overall, you can look at Devontae Booker, hope that you get a touchdown or some volume there. So Booker and Slayton are there if you want them. I wouldn't play Daniel Jones. I just wouldn't do it. He's shorthanded with the weapons. Chiefs are going to come out and play defense, overachieve this week. So, again, Daniel Jones, I know the numbers would lead a lot of people to say play him, but I don't like the hostile environment. I don't like playing young quarterbacks on the road at night in really loud stadiums. I just don't like it. I think they could break down and kind of really struggle in this game. And the Chiefs, again, are going to be motivated because they desperately need to win. And I think you'll see that from their offense and their defense this week. All right, so there you have it. There's a breakdown of all the games here on the back half of the schedule. 8 games all the way through Sunday night and Monday Night Football. And thanks so much for listening to Locked On Fantasy Football and making us your first listen every day. And don't forget, we will look at DFS tomorrow, lineup Friday. Look at the DraftKings and FanDuel, the players to target across price points for the best return on investment, as well as injury updates you need to know and any takeaways that are relevant from the Packers and Cardinals game. So we'll have that for you. Now make your second listen to Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former scout Matt Williamson give you the expert analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available on all platforms. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Have a great day. Good luck in any Thursday night implications you have, and we'll catch you to close the week on Lineup Friday.